Hey everyone, recently I've been layering drums a lot for an industrial metal project that I'm working on, and I wanted to share some of the tips that I've learned so far on how to layer drums. Specifically, I'm layering analog drums with acoustic drums, and sometimes, or very often, mixing in some sound effects too. So I've learned some tips and tricks for using the drum engine, and these envelopes a little bit better. I've also learned some interesting ways to use the Maestro player to stagger the sounds even more. For this tutorial, I'll be working with original samples. I'll be sharing these in the near future, but not quite yet. Okay, for our first example, I'll use the tail, the second part of the acoustic kick, but I think I want the first part to be one of these analog kits. Like, what if we make it just the very beginning of this? And so what I'll do is, to accomplish this, I'm going to adjust the third encoder and make this a much smaller sound first of all. Let's hear it again. I keep forgetting what I'm on. It's this B flat. Alright, now I'm going to hold shift and press this third encoder down. So now we have a decay or a release envelope here. And I'm just going to set it to the maximum amount. Let's make this even shorter. So that's kind of like a pretty meaty kick. And if I layer this and have that be the beginning of our sound and have this be the end of our sound, it's going to sound like an interesting mixture. It's going to start with one and end with the other. So here, let's, on this acoustic hit that I'm going to be using, I'm going to hold shift, keep the envelope the same, but I'm going to increase the attack. And so we shouldn't really hear the thud anymore. Oops. Now if I put those two sounds on the same step, we get a combination of the two. Let's make this one a little louder. And I'm just going to program in the basic pattern I've been using a lot, and then we'll move on to the snare track, and I'll talk about using the Maestro and a couple other tips that I have for you. So on the snare track, I'm going to use this acoustic snare. That's kind of a ringy one. I'm going to use this nail gun sample, and then last I'm going to use this clap that is from the Drum Brute Impact. So I'm going to put all three of these on the same step. Oops. So now I've made that way too loud for that first track. Let's make the overall sound a little bit quieter. It's got a nice layered sound there, but let's actually put the snares where I want them to be, which is on every eighth note. Let's make this louder. Let's make it so that this is more prominent. So I could just make them louder by adjusting the individual volume. I could make them louder by adjusting which envelope happens when, but it's going to take some trial and error, and I found it easier to do this with the velocity sensitivity off, or at least lower. So like I said, let's bring up the Maestro now. I'm going to hold shift and press the player button, scroll down to Maestro, and here I'm going to be able to enter in, basically, it's in chords mode. The advantage here is that we can stagger the chords. We can stagger the order that the notes go in. So let's go ahead and just find those notes again. So I think I was layering that B, this C sharp, and then was it this B? Nope, it sure wasn't. It was that C. Actually, it might be interesting if there's a blank one in the middle. No, let's start over. So let's go here, start with that C, then we'll say that we go to that nail gun, followed by that snare. So let's hear what this sounds like. And I'll just have it. Now I can just make them all this C, and it's going to trigger those three notes every time. But as I change this first parameter, the roll, we can hear that it's staggering them. Now we can change the order that they go in, and that might be good for what I'm looking for. So let's now just tighten up that roll. I find 10 or less is a good sort of... And if we want to, we could make this even more interesting, and let's add some of the silence at the beginning of this nail gun. I'm going to add a pretty basic hi-hat track, nothing too exciting here, just going to be every 8th note. We could layer this, we don't need to. Let's adjust some levels here. Make sure everything's sending to the reverb. Let's take out that, let's make that quieter. There we go. So that sounds pretty blended together now. Let's add a really quick second scene just to sort of continue this idea. So I'm going to now make a... Oops, I think I added 2 scenes. I'm going to make a new pattern for these two. We'll just leave the hi-hat as it is. And so I'm going to now make this sort of the opposite of what it was before. This kick, the acoustic one, will be what we hear at first. And I want us to hear it pretty loudly. So we hear that thud. But I want us to hear this a little later, the sub kick. So I went to that note, held shift, made it so that's the attack envelope, and then went ahead and there we go. Why not? So for this one, I'm going to turn off the Maestro. And I'm just going to have one of the acoustic drums playing exactly where it was before, every 8th note. But on the every 3rd count here, I'm going to have it be a big, like one of the big electronic synth sounds for the 4-hour snare. I'll also include it. I'll also layer it with one of the acoustic ones as well. But let's go on down to drum brute, find one of our snares wherever I've hid them all. I don't remember. Let's do that. But we'll make it loud. Down tune it. So just as a quick review, if you want to layer a sound manually and just have 2 different drum hits layered on each other, that's the most flexible option, and you can get a little more mileage out of it if you just keep in mind that having one sound have that attack envelope and one sound have that decay envelope is probably going to help you blend those sounds and decide which one you hear the initial sound from. I also mentioned that you could use the Maestro to make it so that you always play the same handful of notes, and then you could always change the order that they're played in, and you can change how far apart they are. So I'm just going to play the first pattern, then the second pattern. I'll add in some punch-in effects, and we'll go from there.